And welcome. Order. Thank you all for coming and being part of Workforce Dallas. We have, several things to talk about today. Most importantly, I think will be our planning session, our strategic planning session with TIP Strategies. They've come in and for the first time in a very long time, we're moving forward with a strategic plan for this organization. So very happy about that. So we're going to push through the agenda to get to that today. Staff and several of us from the board have been to the Texas Association of Workforce Boards and the National Association of Workforce Boards. So Texas Association was over in Fort Worth. Happy to say we made it back. And the National Association of Workforce Board was in Washington. Happy we made it back. We'll talk a little bit about this, but we have mentioned this before, but the WIOA funding is being discussed. I will say that at the National Association of Workforce Boards, it was sort of a dark cloud. This is all the workforce boards across all the countries, all the states, and it's sort of a not knowing scenario. And I've been to it. Bill, how many years have you been to it? For sure. 8 years. And did you feel a different tone this year than other years?
Yeah, I think everybody's optimistic, but still a little concerned about something.
Right. So, you pick up the paper every day, something else gets funded, and normally the Department of Labor comes and presents at National Association of Workforce Boards. They were not there. So you can read whatever you want to in that, but it just reiterates that as a workforce board, we need to be prepared, thinking about funding and whatever that means. There's a piece in front of you that is from the National Association of Workforce Boards, and it really speaks to return on investment. And I've asked staff to look at our return on investment as well, so that we'll have those numbers available, because really what we're talking about is being a value-driven proposition. And, it's no longer allowable to say, well, we did better than last year or we did less than last year. We need to quantify our work, and staff will be doing that. NAWB is doing that. So you'll be hearing more and more and more about labor and funding and things like that. So I just want to mention that was our trip. Bill, do you have anything else on NAWB that you recognize or we should talk about?
No, I don't think so. I think you hit the nail on the head. Just the concerns people have. I think from the state standpoint, though, we seem to be in a lot better shape than a lot of states around the country for sure. There were some that weren't as optimistic, not just for funding, just for where they are on the workforce side. So I think from a Texas standpoint, diversity that we have and employment opportunities, specifically really here in Dallas, Houston was not as optimistic. Austin very optimistic with all the construction work they got going on. The same thing here in Dallas, but I think we're blessed to be in this market, this community right now. Optimistic about funding.
Great, thank you. All right, and then Ashley, you want to walk us through another piece that you have at your.
I'm really very excited to present to you all our first ever annual report. It is for 2024 in front of you. This morning, I sent you the link out yesterday to our website where we have this annual report stored. So excellent job to the board staff for putting this together. We're excited to bring these out annually going forward. So you'll see the budget for 2024 along with some of our metrics and new awards that we won in the last year. So peruse, take it with you. It's yours to keep, pass it out. We have more copies if you need them. Share with your friends and colleagues.
Yeah, so thank you for putting that together. I think it's important that we get our message across. That's really consistent message at NOM and the Texas Association of Earthwork Board, because no one knows who we are. And that's just a generalization, but this will help us tell our message, and please pass it along to your circle of influence. And, let's get the word out of the great work that's being done. Our centers are on the back. So thank you, staff, for putting that together. I think it's really an important piece. All right, we'll move to, declaration of conflicts of interest. Rolinda, you have one. All right, Dan. Crystalline. I had it waiting on her last name. It's Crystalline now. Any other conflicts? All right, I think we got them all. Right, so noted, and we'll, Tara Hunt from Equus has asked to speak, and so we'll allow her a few minutes for public comment.
Morning. Thanks for the opportunity for me to introduce our newest leader to the Equus family, Mr. Kofi Ansah, who is our new center operations director.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I have a background in workforce development, new to Dallas, ready to get to work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we will move into our consent agenda in your package, so let's quickly go through that. We'll take it one at a time. Or... All right. Yeah, let's take it all. So you have the minutes in there. I know everyone has read those last night. They were having trouble sleeping. All right, and the policy adopting state rule. Where is that? Yeah, page 13.
And I would just note that those top three items on page 13, those are workforce development or WD letters. They were all childcare related, and they were taken more in depth to the Childcare Advisory Council in our meeting last week.
Okay. And do. Let's see if we can see. All right, any discussion of the consent items? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion that we approve the items in the consent agenda. So Dan, and I gotta get it a second.
Second.
All right, Bill, all in favor? All right, anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, we'll go to the action items, in your package, page 15, and the present to us.
Good morning. I think we're gonna refer to Karen to talk about the Child Care Advisory Council before my action is moving on.
Okay, great. If you'll turn, the committee, met and our report is on, starting on page 19. Couple of things to note. Again, one of our last meetings, we discussed about the corrective action plan that, we were under, because of the issue with Texas Rising Star that has been handled and lifted, so that is no longer an issue. So we talked about that. The biggest thing we talked about at our meeting was the problems that are happening with the rollout of this TX3C. Sounds like RTD2, but anyway, it's about as complicated as Star Wars. There are a lot of challenges with this. This is the system that literally tracks and pays all the child care centers in the country, and does enrollment. And acceptance, everything about the childcare system is done through this new system. And I don't know about any of you and your businesses, when you transition to a new database system, no matter how much you plan, it does not go according to plan. And this is a huge undertaking across the state, and it's also being run by TWC, so that is also adds to the problem. And it has not gone well. It has not gone well for providers. It's not gone well for the people that are trying to get people in the system. Can't upload documents, you can't do all these different things. Parents have to now go in and do a whole new process that they don't understand. So instead of being able to use the system, they're calling the office. And so in the report, you can see that childcare groups, just their labor has gone through the roof with what they're trying to do to work with these families to try to keep their childcare, redo their childcare, bring in new people. And they literally are having to do a lot of this by hand now because the system is still being repaired, trying to work. And so we went through, and I will not bore you with all the details of all that, just know it is a big problem, and it's a problem across the state. So we basically through that have two recommendations. One is that childcare group has requested money, about, I think, $230,000, additional funds to help them because they have had to work their people many extra hours to cover the cost of just trying to keep our system running when the database system isn't working. And so first of all, I'd like to commend Tori and all her staff for all the efforts they're putting in, also not only to keep our system and our parents with childcare, but also just the leadership they're taking at the state level to try to get this right. But it is costing them extra money, so they've requested some extra funds for $230,000, which will come to this board. It's coming today. And so the committee does recommend that be awarded. The second one that I think is most important also is that we're recommending that this board join forces with, I guess it's Gulf Coast for Houston, Tarrant County, some of the other big groups in the state, and go to TWC and request that they are lenient about meeting the metrics for this year. Because it's clear we have to meet our metrics for the number of children served on an average daily basis by September. And if we don't meet the metric, we'll be in default of that. And so, but we can't meet the metric on a system that TWC put in place and will not work. So I think this is not a Dallas issue. This is a statewide issue. And I think if we can have staff go and join forces with those and go and actually have a conversation with TWC to ask them to be more lenient on us meeting those metrics for this year while they work out their own system. So those are the major issues that we need to discuss.
Can I ask a quick question? And I wasn't at the meeting, so I apologize. The leniency, is that, do they have the discretion to say that, to provide that leniency, or do they say, oh, we have to abide by this provision, it's black and white?
No, they do. They're the ones that create those.
Okay.
So
So they can have that discretion.
they can have that discretion. The state will. But they do need to get their act together with this system.
Right, thanks, Gary. Demetria, are you still there? Demetria was that kid in class that was always so quiet in the back. And I was not, yeah, okay.
See what else you were gonna say. Good morning. I'm Demetria Robinson, Executive Vice President, and the items I'm presenting are on page 15 in your board packet. And as Karen, I'll pick up as Karen noted from the Child Care Advisory Council meeting that was held last week. We discussed childcare in detail, so if you ever are interested in anything with childcare, please join us at those Child Care Advisory Council meetings. We do get in the meetings there. Thank you, Child Care Group, for the work that is continuing to happen in the midst of all the challenges that we're facing statewide. We have been in contact with the state, as Karen mentioned. Tori has submitted a letter to the board in reference to the concerns for Dallas specifically. And we have communicated that to TWC and awaiting a meeting with them, just on our issues that represents Dallas County. But we will join forces with
other board areas, especially the large areas that make an impact for the state, in reference to those challenges, so we are working on that now. As far as items on page 15, the items that we're presenting for you today, before you today is, the amendment to childcare group, the 230,000 for operational costs to cover, labor, staff labor for overtime that has, they've been experiencing thus far. This money will take them through September 30, based upon the, allocations and the projections that we've seen from them. In addition, TWC does a mid-year review on our performance. And for childcare, they did that in January, and in February, we got notification that based upon the case mix of, when I say case mix, it's the age of children we're serving and the cost that it takes to serve those children per day. In that mid-year review, it indicated that we would need additional funding to stay at that rate with that number of kids and at the rate of those children that were paid. So $4.7 million was awarded to our board, for direct care. Now, we're pushing that money back down to childcare group with the hopes that we'll be able to continue to serve the children that we have. Now, we are struggling with that because of the system. So we may or may not have to award the whole amount to childcare group, but we're bringing it to you because it is for direct care. So any questions on that? I think we have to take a vote on that one, Ash.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign.
The next item is for Equus Workforce Solutions for the Workforce System Operation Services Contract. Equus provides, workforce services for all 8 workforce centers throughout Dallas County. After our review, based upon our financials, we have additional funding that is available for some additional projects. And so, in the board packet, you will see that it is about 2.6 million that we are awarding to Equus with specific funding streams where the money is available. It's WRA adult and dislocated funding for $750,000 each. And then we have new grants that came in, and these were grants we were waiting for. They just came in a little bit later from TWC. It's supplemental nutrition assistance program and a webinar pilot. With the funding for WIOA, we are projecting some specific activities due to the uptick in layoffs in Dallas County. We have several notices that we received, so we would like to focus with having some events catering to those individuals that have been laid off to help them find work. So we are planning to do those events with with some of the additional money, and we'll bring the specifics back to you with dollar amounts within this money that we're awarding. Any questions on that one?
Any questions about Equus and
I just have a question, how many, events do you project to be able to have this on?
We're hoping at least 2 between now and September for sure. And we hope to bring in some additional assistance with serving those individuals that have been laid off.
I'm just curious, I know at last at our last board meeting, Miguel, he asked a question about when we do the amend, when we add, and it's because we've received additional funds, correct?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
When we do proposed amendments to add funds, it's usually because we have come in, we have received additional funding, right?
Yes,
Okay, I am curious if for either Leoa, SNAP, or ES, because we also discussed last meeting that the grants were for the subject matters. So I'm curious if we've ever received, another, anyone else, a proposal from any other boards that do work in these areas.
have we received a proposal? No, currently we don't have any other contractors that provide these services in the workforce system.
Thank you.
I have a question, so just wanted, for context purposes, I look at the overall total contract for the year on child services and the total contract for the year on equity, and it amounts to about $165 million. What is our aggregated budget for the year?
Just under 200 million, 196 million.
Well, it might be helpful, I know we've seen it before, but like a pie chart that shows how that's broken down, I think that would be helpful for the board.
He's pulling one out for you from
This is
2024.
the annual report.
But it evolves. So
Yes.
It moves. That's.
It's not
That's
pie.
probably the
Let's
latest.
see, but that's not a pie chart.
I understand.
It wasn't previous first page at all.
I've seen several versions of
But
that.
that's exactly that, but yes.
I'll draw you one real
There's
quick.
changes.
That's what my kids, when I turned off.
Miguel has a
It
question
changes
as well.
quite regularly, so.
It does.
Miguel has a question.
Hi, everybody. I apologize I can't be there. I'm here for work in San Antonio. But my question is, if we didn't spend these dollars on this, what could we spend these dollars on?
That's a good question. So WIOA, we can spend those on different activities. Now, we also have released just yesterday an upskilling RFP as well as the Workforce Center Services RFP. So, if there are any special, something different outside of what we're currently doing, we can put a procurement out. It takes a little while to get responses back and review them and get the money allocated, and awarded. So, but we do have those two out. Workforce Center Services is, released for next year's, program fiscal year for October 1. It's slated for October 1. Upskilling, how do you want to give some specifics about upskilling procurement?
It's for incumbent workers and it's front worker training, but employers have to commit set amount of dollars based on the employer size. And all of that is in the RP, but it's an exciting opportunity to kind of prevent employers from laying people off. So it's a great opportunity for current workers.
So, and that funding can be used, adult funding can be used for that, not dislocated worker.
It can be both.
It can be both, dislocated worker or adult funding. So that's one we can allocate money to if we get proposals back that are sufficient for us to award. Miguel, in the money that we're awarding to Equus, it is our hope that Equus will seek additional vendors to help provide those services to those that have been laid off. We're hoping to bring in, you know, some good like, I guess what I wanna say is, what do we call them, rapid response centers? Transition services, so there's different activities or vendors that we can bring in to provide those services.
Okay, my second question is what data do we have, or how do I know if these dollars are actually going to get the people who have been laid off back into jobs? Is this like a come to a fair if you got laid off and we'll help you find a job? Or do we know where these people are being laid off from and we can target the resources to help those individuals particularly?
We do, we get warrant notices, those are notices that come from the state as well as our business services team seeking those that we've heard in the news. So for instance, we know we've been in contact with Southwest Airlines. Right now, they are providing those services to their individuals before they're actually let go. So they have a company doing it now in-house. But as soon as they're let go, then we're available to them. We have Chewy, we have Big Lots, we have Party City, we have, just name off the top of my head, all these warrant notices we receive. So we have a list and Equus have been in contact with each of those companies to let them know what services we have available to them. So how we track them, we hope to have them enrolled in our WIOA dislocated worker program.
Okay, and my final question is, it's sort of twofold. The first is, of all the things that we could be doing, we've said, okay, we've got additional money that we could spend down. This is a thing that we want to do. What was the strategy that was used to determine that this specific thing, of all the things we could be spending the additional money for, this was the thing that we thought was going to be the best value for the $2 million we'll be allocating? And then second, I'd really love to be able to see, I don't think we've got the capacity to do it at the table, but I doubt it's in the materials, a target goal that we're trying to hit with a baseline set of data to basically say, before we spent the $2 million, here is what the numbers were. We think that by the end of the $2 million, we will move, X number of people back into the workforce. That'd be the type of thing I'd want to see, because frankly, I just still have this question. Rebecca was started getting at this as well. We've got this money every year that we say, hey, we've got this money, we can spend it. We're going to just spend it on these things. I'm not saying it's done willy-nilly, but I'd love to be able to understand the strategy behind it. And frankly, I feel like I don't know if I can support this particularly because I just don't know that I've seen the strategy when we make these decisions time and time again. So that's kind of where my mind is, but I'd love to get your answers on that.
Sure, I'll point out two things first. With our workforce center services contract, these funding streams come along with those services to operate our workforce centers. That's one. Number two, there are specific funding streams to do specific things. So, for example, the SNAP money. We don't have another contractor to do those services at this time. It was awarded with the workforce center services. But WIOA, we do have more flexibility. And strategy is put on this one specifically for those warrant notices that we received and the individuals that have been affected. Now, we're serving adults pretty average, let me say that. We have people coming into our centers that we're serving that are needing training to get employment. And those dollars are being spent. But when it comes to dislocated worker, it's a little bit harder because we have to go sort out those folks that have been dislocated, that have not been working or have lost their job. So that's what we were targeting, to get those individuals back to work. But yes, we can always talk strategy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item. Did we talk about the external research? Let's do that. Let's talk about that.
Go on to externships and take the vote together.
Sure. Externships. We're excited. We, were awarded, thank you, Stephen and your team, for working on this, project. It is a regional project, but each board, Workforce Solutions, Greater Dallas, North Central, Texas, and Tanner all went after this one project to collaborate and, bring opportunities to teachers during the summer. So this funding, was $200,000 in the actual proposal. There is, Equus that will have to do data entry for us on this particular project to make sure that the activities are tracked. So they have a small amount, of dollars that they will be awarded, as well as Interlink. That is the company that will help facilitate, recruiting the teachers across the region with North Central and Tarrant County, as well as Dallas, to get those individuals placed in an employer, site to learn what employers are doing and hopefully take that back for the school year and, be able to articulate that to students on what those careers are all about. Any questions on that one? Oh,
If you look at the last page in your packet, we have a flyer for this teacher externship program. We're very excited to kick it off this summer, but we need to get teachers and employers to match them up. So if you know a teacher, please share with them, but if you have a business and you would like to participate, you can scan this QR code and they'll take you to a form and you can get signed up to get connected.
Carolyn?
I just have a mention really quick, unless I missed it, I don't see hospitality and tourism as one of the targeted industries. And I think it's very important as we talk about the master plan development and all of the growth that's happening in Dallas for sure. We actually participated in this program and we pretty much sought out our teachers ourselves. So I know that there will be many Visit Dallas hoteliers, restaurants that would be interested in having teachers. So if we can make sure we're included on that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Second that motion.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, so I'll take those two recommendations that we take a motion that we accept those. Make a motion. All right, Bill, can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Yeah, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, thank you, Demetria. Richard, been waiting for you.
Good morning. My name is Richard Fretz. I'm Senior Research and Data Manager with the board. And I'm going to start on page 24 with the economic snapshot. And I'm going to touch on a few of these and then move on to the environment performance. But the Texas labor participation rate, I'm still doing great. Looking at the over the year rates for February, participation rates, the highest it's been since 2014. So the Texas economy is still doing well. The DFW MSA has gained 1.256 million jobs in non-farm employment since 2008. That's for the whole DFW region, but that's huge. Texas, for the same time period, added 3.6, a little over 3.6 million jobs. So a little over a third. We're right here in the DFW area. The Dallas County and Texas employment rate is just a little bit over the February 2024 rate. But there's been some conversations about the number of unemployment insurance claims. So I thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and take a look at the Dallas County claims for the first quarter of 25 and then compare it to the first quarter of 23 and 24. So it's gone up a little bit for Dallas County, 300, a little over 300 claims, and which is about 2%. For Texas, it was a little more, 7.5%. Just comparing it to the year ago, as Dimitri was saying earlier, some of the announced layoffs haven't hit yet, but they are starting to, and we've noticed a little bit of an uptick in that. And that's why I thought it would be a good idea just to talk about what we know so far about the number of claims being, the number of initial claims in the area. And then it's something a little bit different with the job postings. This is data from Lightcast. I just wanted to mix it up a little bit. And those are the top 10 job postings for the last 12 months, and then just the number of postings by month for the year. But I'll take a pause there and answer any questions if there's any.
All right,
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the MPR, which stands for Monthly Performance Report. That's issued by the Texas Workforce Commission. That is on page 25. The Texas Workforce Commission, they started releasing these NPR reports again. And for December, it shows that we are missing 10 measures. This does not include any performance. And I'm not gonna list all of them, but there are 10. All of them are, well, most of them are WIA measures, with 3 of them for CNT, which stands for Career and Training. But looking at all of the data for Texas, there's 3 other boards in the state that are missing 10 or more measures. That's Brazos Valley, Permian Basin, and our neighbors, North Central. But Lisa Boyd from ECWIS is with us today, and she's going to go over some of the strategies that ECWIS is working on. And I'd like to go ahead and introduce her and bring her up to the podium.
Richard, just look,
Yes,
make sure everyone's clear that who's responsible for achieving these measures?
the Workforce Center contractor, they run the operations, and deliver the services, so most of them are ultimately service delivery performance, working with, the participants in WIA and or other, programs. So it's falls on the Workforce Center contract.
Okay, and that's ECWIS, correct?
Correct.
And we just approved additional money to ECWIS, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right, Lisa, come on up.
Good morning. Thank you, Richard. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Lisa Boyd. I am the Operational Vice President for ECWIS Workforce Solutions, and I get the privilege and honor to work in our Texas contracts. I know we are all disappointed in the December MPR, so I want to talk to you a little bit about what we know as far as where we are at today and how we're going to get there and improve our performance going forward. I've also brought up with me today, Joe Mansour. He is a new addition to our ECWIS team. He is our Director of Performance Optimization at the enterprise level. And at the end of my presentation, I'm going to talk about an exciting tool that we have. It's about 3 weeks old, that rather than looking at performance for people we served 2 years ago, which is what you see on the MPR, we'll have the opportunity to actually look at real-time live performance about how we're serving people right now. And what that is looking into the future in terms of how we're meeting measures. All right, thank you so much. So what you've got here is what we are projecting out, because we are able to see cohorts that have dropped into performance into the future. And so we're looking out to the end of this contract year. And what I want to call your attention to is this is how we would end up the contract year if we did not do anything. If you look across the fourth column from the left, you'll see numbers in that column that reflect needed to meet performance, and then the column just to the right of it, needed to exceed performance. That's what the plus P stands for. So what you see there is we have very manageable numbers in terms of individuals that can be flipped into, I guess, the numerator is the best way to describe it, to be meeting performance. Now, again, these are people we served 2 years ago. There's nothing we can do today to actually affect whether they're going to meet performance. This really is a look back, cleanup effort. If we've lost track of these people, if we're no longer in contact, finding information to verify whether or not they've met these measures. And we do that with a number of strategies. You know, we contact them. Currently, Equus is offering incentives for people to report back to us. That's a cost that Equus absorbs because that's not something that's allowable with WIOA funding. We are looking at databases such as the Work Number, which tracks employment information nationally, as well as credential data that we are able to also get from training providers and online resources that for certifications. So again, these numbers are manageable, and I know how many people in each of these categories we need or that we have pending information for, so that many of these can actually move to a meeting status before the end of the year. What's most exciting to me, though, yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure I understood, thank you, that I understood the reason for not meeting performance. Are you suggesting that it has to do with the fact that we don't have the data on people, or that this is the number of people who are kind of on the bubble that we can work with and get them over the hump? So I'm just trying to figure out if you're suggesting that we may be meeting the performance requirements, but because we don't have enough information, it doesn't look like we're meeting them.
That is correct.
That's what you're saying.
That is correct, right?
Okay.
And so those are the reflect the numbers of people that we would need to have move into a positive performance space in order for us to turn these reds into a meeting performance or a positive exceeding performance.
So you think it's purely a tracking issue, that these people that we lost track of have jobs, but we have to count them as not having jobs because we just don't know?
I can't say that all of them is the case, right? Because we will contact people and we'll find that some of them indeed did not get a job or did not get a credential. But that's what we're working through right now, and I've given the team until May 2nd to wrap up that cleanup effort. What we are doing and what I'll be reporting to Ashley on a weekly basis is how many of those people did we find last week and convert into positive performance? So this chart will change weekly based on those cleanup efforts that we're doing.
Okay, and then how many people who are in the denominator have we not contacted? You're saying we need this many to get over
the red line home. In all these categories. But how many people, are not just counted? We may only need 35 in one of these categories,
Right.
but there might be 200 that we haven't reached. So can you shed some light on that?
Sure, I can tell you that for the credential measures, for each of them, it is about 20 people. I think it's higher for the youth credential measure. So we have the numbers there of individuals that we're still pending information for that could shift us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay.
I've got it over here, going.
That's where, yeah. All right, so this next chart is actually, I think, what's more interesting and this is something innovative new to Equus, again, about 3 weeks old. So Joe, when he came to us, has been able to, in the last few weeks, put together a real-time performance dashboard for us. So what we can see on a daily basis, and it's refreshed on a daily basis, who we're serving today, or who just recently exited our program in the last 6 to 9 months, and what's happening with them. We're able to see individuals that are meeting performance, we're able to see individuals that are not meeting performance, and that allows us for those real-time early interventions on case management to make sure that we convert them into a positive performance state before we exit them from our program. So with this chart, and this is new, we just put this together or I should say Joe put it together a couple days ago, is if you look at the credential measures, and I can't see it on my screen, I'm sorry, and I know it's small for you. That's one of the big concerns this year in terms of, measures that are being missed across many ward areas. If you look at credential measures and what we're projecting out in that second to last column on the sheet, we're already showing hitting performance at the 90% or greater level on credentials for adult and dislocated worker. And we still got a little ways to go on youth. Now, again, these are people that we are still serving or just exited in recent months. So these are people we have not lost contact with. And this number will continue to grow in a positive space. So it's encouraging to me that I can tell you next program year, we're gonna look a lot better. And we're gonna start out the program year very strong on performance. And so we're still building out the employment data. Much of that is missing from this right now because of when the follow-up periods drop. And if you have questions about that, Joe's my expert, he can answer those for you. But we're in a much better place this year and for future performance than we have been because we have this visibility. We know who the people are. We can introduce the real-time interventions, and it's an exciting place to be because we have made some significant shifts and strategies over the last year. The other thing I'll say that we have in the dashboard is a training provider scorecard. So we can look at every training provider that we've used in Dallas and we can get information on, how successful have they been with helping our individuals get credentials and get employment. And so that's a game changer when our case managers are talking to people and advising them on, who they might want to go to get training for the career that they've chosen. Last thing I want to talk about is kind of our resourcing. So we understand how urgent this issue is. None of us are happy with where we're at right now. We've got a lot of folks that are on the ground with us for the next several weeks. And actually, I'll introduce them. Joe Sharp is here and he's from our operational excellence team at the corporate level. He's helping us out with the new RECE pilot implementation because that is very different. than what we've done in the past with that population. We've got Eric Rivera, who is here again from our operational excellence team, looking at quality. Joe helping out with, the performance, myself, Charissa, and all on the ground, at least for the next 30 to 60 days. We understand how important this is, and we want to move us to a positive space. The other thing I'm really excited about is we're going to be able to leverage our colleagues in the UK to come over on the week of April 28th to do some root cause analysis with our teams on performance, on qualities, problem areas that we seem to have. We'll go for a few years, we'll do really well, and then we kind of get into this slump. What is the root cause of that? And how do we not just fix things, but how do we fix that root cause? And so we have training this afternoon with that UK team to talk about the root cause analysis and how we'll go about that. I will provide a report to Ashley once we finish that process the week of the 28th. And just really excited to, make sure that we don't get in this space again. If you remember a few years ago, we had issues with choices. We were able to, bring some additional resources to the table, support the team, and, got that in a very positive space. And then finally, I want you to know that this has got the attention at the top of the company. I'm having weekly meetings with a steering committee that's providing governance over this process that includes our interim CEO, Jack Sawyer, our CFO, our chief people officer, and our chief customer officer, Bradley Williams. Many of these individuals will actually be in town as well on the week of April 28th. So I want to, let you know that we are getting ahead of this. We're excited about what we're seeing for future performance, and we will take care of, we've got this parallel effort going on with both the cleanup and then the intervention, so we continue to see those positive numbers going into future performance.
All right, any other questions? Yeah, sure.
How do they calculate the target?
So TWC goes through a process of, they use what they call a regression model to calculate the targets. It's based on, past data around populations that are being served and characteristics of populations, to set those targets. And they do adjust the targets from time to time as well, post performance.
Well, I'll just close by, thanking you for. Michelle, apologize.
Yes, my comment is, would have been nice to have this presentation before we voted. Because if you have the cleanup process, we're not getting ready to reward $2.6 million. To me, I would want to know what the outcome, because we want to say we were going that performance, but corporate America not going to get merit increases, bonuses, when we have another outcomes. And so I think we should have flipped it, because I think the vote may have been different, or it may have been a less recommendation. Not that you wouldn't get any money, but it may not have been 2.6.
Yeah, I'll address that. I mean, regrettably, I agree with you, actually, but, I think the bigger picture is this. And the words cleanup effort indicates something is wrong, yet we don't know what. So I think there has been, and we continue to be some very direct conversation with Aquas. So I'll just leave it at that. We appreciate the effort. And I also will point out that, North Central Texas is also, in the same position. You manage their contract, right?
We do.
Yeah, so, this is a very serious matter, and it's addressed at the highest level. And I'll just leave it at that for this.
Can we revisit that vote?
Well, Demetri, you can talk to this, but if we have the funds, if we don't award the funds, then they're gone. So,
I got that, but so when they do the cleanup, they're gonna go back, they got people coming in town, they're gonna be looking at it, they're going through strategy conversations.
yeah,
So they're coming back to us when they can vote. Because you wanna know what they've learned from all of this and what the implementation looks like. So we are voting on and trusting that all of this is going to get done. I'm certain that it will. I know that.
Maybe it could be subject to
Yeah.
approving, subject to.
when do those funds have to be approved, Demetri?
When we talk about WIA and
Yes.
8%.
We owe a funds, which is the bulk of what we awarded today, expire each June, and we have 2 grant years rolling at a time. So the funds that have 1 year remaining at June 30th, TWC is looking at the full grant and the number of expenditures plus what we've obligated in contracts has to equal 80%, or they'll go ahead and start clawing back funds at that time. So we do need to vote on this before we get to June 30th to make sure we have met that 80% benchmark. You do have the option to de-obligate later in the process. So, I mean, we could do that now, we could do that in July. But by June 30th, we have to have 80% of those funds obligated.
I'd be comfortable postponing if the board would be open to that recommendation.
When they're gonna go,
Middle of May.
why don't we, reconsider? Why don't we, would you entertain a motion to reconsider the vote that we had earlier and, reconsider it at some future point prior to June 30th?
Yeah.
Second. Are we gonna have enough information by May to be able to do that, but we gonna have any more information? Then, than we have today to be able to make a more educated vote, so.
What? Next, we can do it. Oh, we can't do it virtual. Or we can,
No.
have a virtual vote.
So the $2 million is specific to different populations that we're serving. So if we're talking about, for example, WIA, youth and dislocated worker, that's the 80% obligation that we're trying to do. SNAP and ES are specific populations, those for SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That population are individuals that we're serving that have been referred from Health and Human Services to get job readiness and preparation services through workforce. So that's a specific population. So I would say we need to move forward on those dollars in serving that population as we refer to. And then Wagner Pfizer is another specific population as well, that's employment services. Now, that money is given to us to help serve those individuals that have been on unemployment and to assist the staff that is state staff. So those are those new pots that are listed in there as part of 2.6. So I ask that we would consider that we keep moving on those dollars. Now, it's, WIA is a different story. We need to obligate the funds, but we can be very specific on what your pleasure is.
I think what I'd like to do is move into closed session, because there's some mechanics here that we need to think about. And so I will, at this point, move us into closed session. Ask our audience to, help themselves to more refreshments, and we'll make it as quick as we can to get back. Earlier.
Mike Elvis, he left the building. Really intense.
Concessions.
Yeah. Well, it can. Back in session and.
There it is. Perfect timing. Well, keep your seat, please. All right, Bill, wow. All right. You wait for just a moment. They're right on your heels. Nip, nip, nip. Okay, I want to hear a motion from the board, Dan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Earlier in the meeting, we voted to approve. Thank you. We voted to approve two items that are listed on page 15 of the agenda. The first item was $750,000 Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. We owe a bill, and the second was to approve $750,000 in WIOA dissipated worker funds. At this time, I would like to make a motion to reconsider those votes. And I'll do the second.
Okay, hearing a motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries.
So we are approving the 8:30 and the 3.
We need a new motion,
All right, Bill, can I get a new motion for that?
Yes.
Dan?
Let me just say the two other items on that page at the bottom of page 15, those are unaffected by the motion that I made. And now now we are back on the main motion, as I understand it. And, so we're essentially starting over again with respect to these two items. And, I move to, postpone, items, that I just read, the $750,000 in Workforce Investment Opportunity Act for Help and $750,000 in Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, dislocated worker to the main meeting. I'll do the second for that.
All right, got a motion, second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Do one more motion. What we did, we redid. The first thing we did on the motion to consider was that we pulled down the entire motion from originally. So now, items 3 and 4, the 830 for SNAP and 830 for ES are no longer approved. So now that we have reconsidered, and now that we have taken a motion to consider those items again in a month, now we need a motion that was the original motion that would approve items C and D.
Correct.
So I would like to.
I'm okay with doing that out of an abundance of caution, but my original motion was to reconsider the first two items.
It was a singular motion. The original motion that we did, we approved the entire amount in one vote, right? So it was 4 items that were aggregated into one, so when you reconsider the motion, even though it only affected or impacted 2 items, the entire motion was essentially negated. So just for legal purposes, let's do.
I'm okay, like I said, I'm okay with doing it, just to be sure and
So is that the motion? So the motion is now on items C and D with 830 for SNAP and 830 for employment services.
I'll send you that motion.
All right, hearing a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we're gonna move to, item 6, C. And Kent, if you could come up and take the.
Good morning. Again, Again, I'm Ken Anderson, and I'm on the board for about 7.5 years now. And with me today is Josh Gibbs. We're gonna talk about the construction career day event that took place on March 26th. And the reason Josh is here today is because he has done an awful lot of work with us on this event for the past 3 years. And what I should also mention is in the past, I have brought some kids here from our committee class a couple of times. Some of you may have seen them and met some of those kids. Josh is the instructor for that class. So Josh has acted as instructor, and some of these kids are at-risk young adults in the ages of 18 and 24. And I can't say enough about the work that he does, because he is teacher, he is mentor, and sometimes he is parent to some of these kids, if they really act up in class. He helps me considerably on the career day event that takes place every year. We had our third one, as I said, on March 26th, and each year they get a little bit bigger. The first two, we had them at Fair Park in the Briscoe Center. Last year, we outgrew that location and the employers, and make no mistake, this event is an employer-driven construction industry event. They're the ones that requested it, they're the ones that wanted it. And the reason being because they had an issue. We are talking about heavy civil here, and Josh will tell us all about heavy civil, but basically, it's everything that's flat. So it's roads, it's rail, it's pipes, electric, things that, how you get here today is heavy civil on the road. And these employers have been dismayed at their opportunity to get to young people. We're looking for a change and only to do that, and this event is a direct response to their request to connect with young people across the entire, not just Dallas County, but the entire 16 county region. So the first year we saw 200 students and about 45 employers at Fair Park. The second year we saw about 675 students and 60 employers at Briscoe. And this year we had about 975 students and about 150 teachers that attended. And we had to move the event to Globe Life Field in Arlington. As you might expect, Globe Life offers some different challenges, mainly money, but it does cost more to have an event there. But the event was decided by the employer. They wanted to go to Globe Life because they wanted something that's more central. They wanted something that was a better draw for the students and for the teachers in the schools. And they mainly wanted, something that's much more attractive over and long term and had more capacity to see more students. So that does present some challenges, primarily cost. And I can report that this event was a very expensive event. Probably, if I add everything up, including my time and the contributions that Josh makes to this event, it's probably about $100,000 event total cost, and the employers paid all of that, or probably most of that. We had a small share. Get a contribution from both the other two boards, North Central and Tarrant. So they are also involved, but this event is primarily paid for by sponsorships provided by all of our major employers. So, do you want to say anything about that?
This is a passion of mine. This is actually my 25th year from graduating high school. I started interning in the Department of Transportation when I was about 16 years old in the engineering departments. And I'm third generation construction owner. This is my way of giving back. It's teaching all the knowledge that I learned from those that were before me. So just being in that class and being able to impact job opportunities and create jobs is what I'm all about. And I've taken a lot of my partnerships that I've had in the industry over the years. We are the sole training provider for the Texas Department of Transportation. My company is throughout the state. We operate in Dallas as our headquarters here, but Houston, Austin, San Antonio. So not only are we looking at youth, we're looking at more adults too, which is funded actually by the state. So this was a very difficult task to bring that here to Texas, but we were able to get it done. And our next opportunities are looking at apprenticeship programs with these large GCs and through career days. This is the way to start. So we like to put our money in things like career day, and that's what we became responsible for. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And he paid for all these shirts. He also paid for all the T-shirts for all the kids that were given a shirt on that day. It's done that for 2 years now, so he lays out a lot of money for this event and support to make this thing a success for all of us, so we all appreciate that. Now, we do have a video to show you, so this is probably the fun part. Turn around, look at that.
Josh, you teach how to operate like a backhoe?
Well, a couple different things. I have subject matter experts in different fields, from engineering to blueprint reading, estimating, surveying, et cetera, math skills. So I'm looking at hiring superintendents, project management levels, and then we train on heavy equipment operations. We have a 200-acre site out in the Singlewood area where we put on all of our training, moving forward. So it's just different areas of construction because everyone's not hiring a laborer or an operator, so they're looking for more skilled labor force. So we train to the employers. Ready? Just Sam.
President of Workforce Solutions in Greater Dallas. This is our 3rd annual construction career day. My name is Douglas. I'm representing Grand Prairie ISD. Everybody, my name is okay. Welcome here, Grand Prairie ISD. I feel for construction.
I believe they were on the company in Texas. 2025 construction career day, bringing all the high school students here to introduce them to the construction industry. Here today, from Iowa, with our school program, showcase some of our products and what we do as a construction manufacturer. Or to inform everyone in the community about how Dallas College will help you get certified in construction careers.
Yeah.
So before I go, I do have something for Josh. In appreciation for all the work that he has done for us over the years. It's been what, 5 years now? We just want to recognize him for his contribution to the board activity, to young people across the region and to the career day that we have every year. I mean, he does, his company and his wife, John, not here today, but help us make this happen.
All right, we're gonna adjourn our general business discussion. The next session is on strategic planning. And our Tom has assured us that we can do that in about 15 minutes. So if I can have a majority of our board stay, we'll get that done in 15 minutes. So you guys in? In? Okay, so moved. Let's go. The hammer. Y'all wanna know why I asked tobacco question? Yeah, I would like to learn to use tobacco so I can clear the way at 9:30 for us to come to board.
I go with 75.
75, well, one at a time. When you get to training. Well, I put it all on me.
All right, I'm ready when you are.
Go, good.
All right.
Make it happen.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm Tom Stillman with TIP Strategy, and I have with me, Bill Simon and Erica Colson, the 18th. And I am going to give a very abbreviated.
Tom, I just want to just make the audience aware, you don't have to stay, we're out of general session. If you want to be part of our strategic planning process, all the better. Perfect. Go.
Smith.
Thank you, Tom.
That's right. So, I'm gonna, call this an update today with 15 minutes. And then Carter, anybody else has any questions, we're happy to, answer any questions, but we're probably gonna use an opportunity to give you guys some homework after this. We will send you guys an email and attach the presentation with some questions for you, to help us make sure we're on the right track. But as you know, we were hired to help with the 3-year strategic plan for the board. And just a reminder that there are many things that you heard today that the board must do that are governed by state, by federal government. And there are some things that you may aspire to do as a board. So we're gonna include both of those in our plan as we work through this, but just remember that this is a strategic plan directed by the board. The components of the local plan are listed here, and I won't go through that, but just this difference between what you do on a yearly basis with the local plan versus what we were doing as a strategic plan for the board operation. So, when we met with you guys back in January, we asked you a question. So what would be the headline of your dream press release? And there were many things that jumped out to us that were included in this plan, including partnerships, including collaboration for employer, job seeker, innovative solutions. There was a lot of discussion about bringing employers and job seekers together and making that connection. That's what you guys do. So that's been the theme of what we've done so far. Since we last met, we have done a lot of stakeholder engagement with the judge, ISDs, United Way, Miguel, his team with Commit Partnership, Southwest Airlines. We also have interviewed several board meeting members since that time. And our offer still holds. If there's anyone who'd like to talk to us, please let us know and we will set up another meeting. We had a great meeting a couple of weeks ago with the executive committee and the strategic planning committee. We got a lot of great input. Bill reached out to us in an interview, and so we talked to him this last week. But just letting you know that we are still in the process of forming this plan. So there's still an opportunity for you as board members to weigh in. So I'll pause right there, and I forgot Steven, you helped us with the same sort of cohort, meet with employers. So I don't know what kind of pace I'm on here. Or
You're doing good.
am I doing okay?
You're great.
All right.
Keep going.
All right. So one of the things that we have agreed to do, but we haven't done yet, is to revisit your mission and your values. So we got some great feedback last time. We're gonna give you guys some homework to give us additional feedback. We're gonna go into that today, but just know that you guys have a pretty solid mission and values, but there were discussions we had 2 weeks ago that we'll make amendments to. I'm gonna go ahead and let you know that there are 4 goal areas in the framework that we are working with. And when we met with the steering committee 2 weeks ago, we went over each of these goal areas.
And they're not going to surprise you, but I'm gonna walk through each one. And then I think actually we shared this with board members, but we will send it out again. Since it wasn't in your packet, we will send it out again to board members after this meeting. But, you know, your number one goal is still around your delivery to job seekers. That's a big part of what you do. Number two is the employer engagement side of what you do. Number three is looking for opportunities. Workforce Solutions Greater Dallas to step up, be a leader in workforce. And
Tom, can I address that for a second?
you sure
I
can.
mean, I've really heard from this board that it's not okay to be average. That we really want to be exceptional and be a leader. And we've gotten strong leadership in place, made great changes on the board. So let's keep that momentum going. That's gonna be part of our strategic plan. Is that we don't wanna be average. We don't wanna be in the bottom half. We don't wanna be in the middle. We wanna be at the top. And we want other boards to look to us as the leading board in the US. We've received some awards in that area. So, I think this is really an important goal that we have communicated to Tom and his team. Thank you.
Yes, and I think in all of our interviews, there was an expression from the board and others that there's an opportunity for Workforce Solutions Greater Dallas to step up and play a leadership role. They felt like there's been a shift in the last couple of years. There have been opportunities from a communication standpoint, the types of events that Kent just talked about. And when we met 2 weeks ago, I ran into Ashley in the hallway before the meeting started. And she had this nice little annual report in her hand, and I said, "What's that?" And she said, "It's our first annual report." I said, "Darn it, beat us to the punch," because one of our recommendations is that you really up your game. You guys are already there. And so I think to your point, Carter, you guys are already stepping up to do this. What we're gonna look for, how do you enhance that? How do you solidify that?
But, and Tom, just to reiterate, you heard in the community, not just from us, that there had been a shift in this board.
Absolutely, every interview we did, public sector, private sector. I think everybody's excited and kind of they're waiting to see what you're gonna do next.
Well, that sort of resonates with me because Workforce does not do any marketing. So the best marketing we can do is just that. And how do you measure that? The effectiveness is to hear from your customer, hear from your community. I'm watching, I'm hearing, I'm seeing. So good job, board. Keep the message going. So, sorry.
And, you know, in the goal 4, it was really about expanding access to resources. And we know, as Carter mentioned, there are discussions happening at the federal level about funding flows. There's some uncertainty there. Hopefully we'll get what we've been receiving, maybe a little bit more, because this is really important work that everyone does related to this board. But there's uncertainty there, and even if there weren't, we think that there are a lot of big opportunities. So, for example, employers that are willing to step up and pay for services and pay for things that they really can do. There's grant funding out there, there's a number of philanthropic groups that are in this space that are raising funds and being very successful. And many of them they have strategies in place, as was discussed earlier. If you don't have your strategies in place, and you're not clear about what those strategies are, it's hard to raise money. So part of the goal for this plan is to have that strategy in place and be able to use that to leverage out there. So that would be part of that. And so what we're planning to do, and I know I'm coming up on my 15 minutes here, is that we are going to put together something that is detailed, that takes each of these goal areas and outlines potential strategies and actions within that. And we are going to work with the staff in building this out. Because we don't know everything that's going on. We've reviewed lots of documents, but in our planning work, we always find out, you know, once we actually lay out our recommendations, we find out we're already doing something, or it's something that's been tried in the past. So we're gonna rely pretty heavily on the staff to make sure that this plan is something that they feel good about and is implementable as it goes forward. So, and within that, Here's an example, for example, within the job seeker services, we have 1.4, which is the childcare strategy. We will actually go through and build that out with the help of Karen and others who are in that space to make sure that as we make recommendations, it makes sense for this board to pursue.
And talk on pages 16, 18, 19, and 20. That would be an area for this board to look at and write additional bullet points. I'll take page 17.
First one is, okay, 7. Okay. Okay, page
That's the page that's missing.
Oh, that doesn't happen.
That's what you got.
All right, there we go. All right, so there's a lot of work left to do. And we're gonna rely on the board and the staff to help at this stage. And I just heard Carter say he was volunteering to do what, 16 to 20?
No, thank you. Let me be clear, 17.
17.
Page 17.
All right. All right, but, and I will say that we will also deliver a tool to the staff where we will put this in the form of an action plan for the staff. And this will be a living document that they can choose to use, or they can choose to put it into another planning format that they would use. But the idea is that it's not just going to be a high level document that everybody says, oh yeah, that's great. It will actually be something that staff can use to report back to the board. We will also be looking at metrics. We heard a lot about metrics earlier today, and we will come back and form metrics for each of these goal areas and the strategies that make sense. So I will stop there. We will send this to you guys with some guidance, for some of the questions that we have, and we'll come back, I think in May. If the board absolutely works at that time, we can kind of hopefully get close to something that is you're excited about and can drive us forward. So,
Yeah, one quick question. When you were talking about the interviews at the very beginning, is there any area where you feel like you're particularly desiring certain connections locally?
yeah, there's still a ton. We were, with the help of the staff, we were able to meet with United Way, we got the city, we got the county, and their person. We spent a lot of time with Dallas College. We met there and met with them there. So there probably are others that we missed, and we would welcome, if there's somebody that you think, have you met with them? You need to meet with them. We met with school districts, visiting with you.
So it's just United Way,
If there's anybody that you feel like we want to meet with, we're happy to go.
Are there any, did you meet with any healthcare? No? Anybody, yeah.
That would be a good one.
We definitely welcome that, if that's their connection.
Are you gonna ask hospitality next? I'll respond.
Healthcare is H-E, now H-O.
Okay.
Definitely. But thank you, everyone who has taken the time to meet with us and refer, but we would welcome others. We're happy to hop on all of anyone out there.
Tom, thanks for letting us sandwich you in. I apologize that we took some time away from you. We had some board matters we needed to discuss.
We recognize. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you in May.
We all have hand raised. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I'll be brief, and I know you're going to get feedback from us, and so I think this is in a great direction. The one thing that I thought might be interesting for you to also play around with, that would be interesting for the board to maybe consider as a part of the next round of feedback, is just like a true north goal. So we have a goal that's sort of described narrative wise, but like, is there a quantitative metric that we could tie the plan to as well? Something like X% of, people living within our boundaries of service are making a living wage, or, X% of people are employed by the end of, the strategic plan. Some quantitative metric that we could plant a flag in the ground on that matches sort of the qualitative spirit of the plan, that might help drive some of the KPIs that I think you just said are going to be tied to each of the tactics within the broader 4 buckets of strategy. So just a thought.
Definitely appreciate that feedback. I know you guys, the partnership, have a great sort of North Star that you operate off of. And we would be happy to think about that between now and the next board meeting and have that be part of the discussion.
Thank you, Miguel. All right. Hearing no other business, you're free to leave. All right.
Oh, amazing.